Hey, 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 happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, amazingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard. Tonight is Wednesday, June 15th, 2022. This is live stream number 800. Whoa! 800 live shows. And that's on top of about 800 other videos on the Gaming Gang YouTube channel. So that is pretty wild. If this is your first time joining me, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and normally taking a first look at a tabletop game. Well, tonight, a little bit different. I am actually going to be sharing a live review. That's right, because our fantasy role-playing game celebration continues, as I will be sharing my review of Original Adventures Reincarnated Volume 4, The Lost City, from Goodman Games. Yes, this is the 5e conversion of the classic Dungeons and Dragons adventure, The Lost City, which was originally penned by Tom Mulvey, the late, great Tom Mulvey. And I'm also going to have my best friend, Elliott Miller, join us in just a couple of moments, because he is returning to the Gaming Gang. That's right. The voice of E himself is going to have his own corner of the Gaming Gang. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And this is kind of an AMA as well. So keeping in mind, an AMA is Ask Me Anything, not to be confused with GMA, which is Good Morning America, or DNA, which, you know. Anyway, so feel free to ask any questions about, our hobby creds or favorite games, things like that, whatever you like. Ellie's going to hang out for about 30 minutes or so. Do want to mention, don't forget, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more that you won't find here on the Gaming Gang YouTube channel. Come on, you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Also, this is a live stream, so that means there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But I do my best to pay attention to chat. So if you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in and I will respond. Should also mention, you must be a subscriber to the Gaming Gang channel for at least 48 hours in order to take part in chat. Yet another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. So first out that gate tonight was Mr. Eddie T. The Madman, yes, the Motor City Madman himself is with us. Who else we got? John Vogel, Dan Kellogg is in chat. Kevin R. Smith, 245 Trioxin. We are off and running. So we have 2 of our 4 chat moderators hanging out. Mr. Eddie T points out that Sarah D, who is another of our chat moderators, is running a little late. So, and she usually lurks anyway. So Keldon has joined us, and they are pointing out that they are an unusual commenter. All right, who wants to bust out the band hammer? Kelton's already told us. I'm just kidding. All right, so trapped in a soundproof booth in the Chicago suburbs is my best friend, Elliott Miller. He's hanging out on Skype. I am going to bring him on in. I'm going to put my headphones on here. I hate talking with headphones on. Awful. It just sounds so bizarre. Elliott Miller, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
Happy 800.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, kind of weird. You know, to be honest, I never thought when we talked in August of 2010 about putting together the gaming gang, doing a podcast and having a website. Oh my gosh, a website that actually went with the podcast. What a crazy conception that was. Madness, right. I never thought I'd be doing this. Never thought I'd be doing a live show 3 nights a week.
Was it 2010?
2010.
Jeez.
Yep. Yeah, we launched. Well, we started posting articles in September of 2010. And we didn't let anybody know we existed until I think it was October 1st, because we wanted to make sure that we had content. Unlike many people who start websites and they're like, hey, check out my website. And it's like, oh, look, there's a welcome message and that's it. So why would I ever return here? Because there's nothing to bring me back.
Under construction.
Well, that'd be different. At least you know, oh, it's under construction. But a lot of times people are like, oh, you got to check out my website. And it's a blog. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the vast majority of websites out there run on WordPress anyway, which started off as a blogging platform. Now it's just content management. But you would go and there'd be like 2 articles and a welcome message. And it'd be like, okay. So by the time people knew that we existed, we had 30 days of articles, of news pieces up there. And then we were getting messages from people saying, how come I've never heard of you guys before? And it was like, oh, because we're new. Coco B is in chat pointing out Elliott Miller is real. 2 T's at the end of that Elliott, though, I must point out.
Yes, I'm complicated.
Right.
Hi, Coco B.
Do you remember the song? Do you remember the song from the podcast?
Oh, God.
Because everybody would misspell your name. They'd either give you 1 L or 1 T, and you were like, ELLIOTT Miller.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. Oh, geez.
So Coco says that they thought you were like the Snuffleupagus.
Hello, bird.
No, actually, he's more like Freddy Krueger. that kind of imaginary friend. Just kidding. So what's cooking, man? I understand you're coming back into the fold.
Yeah, I've been missing it, you know? I haven't done much since the whole COVID thing happened, and I let my website go into ruins, and they stole it from me. They didn't steal it from me. They deleted it.
Right. Well, you didn't pay. That's how it works.
I didn't realize that they would just remove it for eternity.
That's how capitalism works. You pay for services. If you do not pay for the services end.
I still own it, but
yeah, you own the domain name.
Yeah, but when I called them to try to get the website like back up, like, yeah, I want to get back into this again. It's getting warm out. And
because you know all tabletop gaming is temperature based.
It is. And They said, "Oh, well, do you have a copy of it?" Like, no, don't you
No.
guys have backups? Like, well, we don't have them that old. Like, it's
Right.
only been it was only, I don't know, 8 months.
8 months. 30 days and it's usually gone. I have backups for the gaming gang, but I do not have backups of the images. So if something were to go wrong, and thankfully the hosting company that I utilize, they do a backup every other night. And they're pretty good. There's been a couple of times I've experimented with something and I've been like, shit. Broke this damn hero website there. Guess I better contact them to ask them to just reload that backup. And they're super cool about it. I'm through Known Host, so I have a virtual dedicated server with them.
I was using Bob's hosting. Yeah.
Yeah,
It was pretty good.
yeah. It's like,
I must say.
yeah. So all your files are located on this phone.
It's on the SIM card. We're gonna send it to you.
That's right. We got it. Yeah. So if you don't pay up, we just erase that SIM card. So, Mr. Eddie T, well, first of all, Kelton says you socially distance from your website. That's not how it works.
That's how it happened. And then it's socially distanced from me. Freak.
Actually, you know, it was funny because we're going to migrate some of the videos from, because your YouTube channel is still around.
Yeah, YouTube's still there. I still want to put stuff out there, but it'll go up on your site.
Yeah, right. Well, then we're going to embed it on the gaming gang. Right.
Yep.
But what I was going to say is I was taking a look and you've got, I think it's like 140 reviews. You got a lot of videos. There's like 400 videos, but a lot of them are interviews or like, oh, hey, look at the Doctor Who sonic screwdriver thing, which was actually very popular. Right. But we're not going to segue. We're not going to migrate those over. But I was looking, and it's been like 4 years since you did a video.
Oh, Lord. Seems like only 3 years.
Yes. Only 3 years. Yeah. So, very cool.
Ready to get back into it.
Nice. So we've got some questions floating out there. First of all, Mr. Eddie T wants to ask, what is the first role-playing game that you and I played together?
Was it D&D? It had to be.
I don't know if it was. Because if you remember, we joined the Gamers Guild, which was one of the 2 gaming clubs at our high school, and the other one was just D&D, and we didn't want to just play D&D.
No, we definitely didn't, but I just thought that was probably the first one we played together.
I don't know. I gotta be honest, I don't know if it was. It may have been. It's possible. It could be Top Secret. That's a possibility.
Yeah. Scott.
No, that was Tim.
Tim.
Yeah, Tim ran that. Yeah, I gotta say it may have been because I remember playing Top Secret in the club,
classroom.
Right, in the classroom.
Mrs. Whoever.
I remember that. So, yeah, I'm going to take a guess. Amazingly enough, I know it's not Gamma World because I don't think you and I ever played Gamma World together. I've only played Gamma World, I think, once or twice.
Yeah, I know I played it a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm going to say I think it was Top Secret. I don't think it was D&D. I know it's not Champions, although that's right in that period too. But I think Champions was more along our sophomore year in high school. We had been introduced to like villains and vigilantes. and I think Champions 2. So,
But weren't we playing CSE by then?
yeah, I think,
And Stormbringer?
yeah, but they wouldn't have been the first that we played together.
No.
So Flaming Huron has joined us in chat. Our third chat moderator is with us as well. So let's see. We've got the Madman would like to know, Elliott, what board games expected to be released this year are you looking forward to?
I don't know.
I knew
It's
that was
a
coming.
mystery. Actually, I am waiting for my Kickstarter of the new version of Robinson Crusoe.
Oh, Lord.
I'm hoping that comes out this year. We made so much fun of that game on the podcast.
Yeah, there was the episode that we just lost it because their sell sheet info was just
It's terrible.
So, yeah, horribly localized for English. And it's like, be firefighter on Mystery Island. It was like, what? What does that have to do with the Robinson Crusoe?
And it was so hilarious. And then I actually got the game and I really enjoyed it. But it was so hard. And then, well, they kickstarted a new version and yeah,
right.
I went all in, man.
He went all in. He went for the like $300 level. Where they're actually going to fly you to Poland to play.
Right.
In the Portal Games headquarters.
Ignacy drops it off himself.
Right. Hello, Elliott. He just hands you the box and leaves.
Right.
Okay, so we've got a question here. I'll let you answer this. Mr. Eddie T would like to know, who is the better game master? You or I?
I would definitely say you are the better game master.
So would I.
I know you would.
In fact, I get to bust that out on Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
Yep.
Some
we are going to be
RPG
playing
action.
Yes, Warhammer Fantasy Role Play. And
looking forward to it.
Yeah, everything's a go. I have confirmed that earlier today. So I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have some fun. It's going to be a little different too. So mechanically, it's not the same old. So the combat's actually pretty cool and pretty fast and very deadly. So Keldon mentions that they had a gaming club in their high school until one of the members axe murdered their grandmother. Not a joke. True story.
Good Lord. Okay.
Just bringing on back that satanic panic, huh? Have you watched
Memories?
Have you watched the new season of Stranger Things, or at least the first part of it?
Yeah, of course.
I had to laugh with the satanic panic stuff in it.
Yeah.
I was like, uh-huh. Although I got to admit, I think the people who write that show have never played Dungeons and Dragons.
Really?
Come on. The one episode where, I'm not giving any spoilers away, but where they're playing and it's like, oh, it's down to that one die roll and it's like, nobody would play like that. Although
I've seen it. We've had it go down to one die roll in games before.
Yes, but I mean, people weren't all like jumping up and down chanting for a die roll. No. Although I got to admit, I thought it was kind of interesting how the heavy metal dungeon master, he kind of comes across, okay, I've seen some game masters like that. So
yeah, definitely.
Yes. All right. 245 Taraxon says $300 isn't even all that much for some of these recent Kickstarters.
Oh yeah, that's for sure.
Especially, like if they're miniatures based. But for a board game, yeah, I think $300 is pretty pricey for a. I know you didn't. It wasn't $300, but wasn't it two? Didn't you? Wasn't it like 200?
Somewhere around there.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay,
But
Coco B has another question. Not necessarily Appendix N, but are there any books that inspired your gaming?
wow. So
Yeah, the
I
rule
started
book.
I started reading the rule book back in like 8th grade. So what would I have read before 8th grade? I read the Xanth novels from Piers
Was that
Anthony.
even out?
Had to be.
Really? Because
Pretty sure.
I could have swore I picked up the first Xanth novel and I was like a freshman or sophomore.
A Spell for Chameleon.
Yes. Although, I mean, it's possible it had been out for a while. But if I remember right, I thought it was in like new releases. So, hmm.
Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I mean, before that, all I can remember is the Hardy Boys
Well, didn't you read Lord of the
histories.
Rings or The Hobbit or anything
I
like
definitely
that?
read The Hobbit. I don't
No.
think I read the rest of them until in high school.
So, did any of those inspire your gaming?
The fantasy, I don't know. Maybe I was just intrigued by hearing about D&D because I can remember getting I think it was the DM's guide, and they had a solo gameplay
Yeah.
section in the back of the manual.
Keldon points
And
out a spell for chameleon was 1977. So,
so
you are
there we
correct,
go.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, I thought so. So the Xanth novels, I think, are what got me most interested in fantasy. So
I
back
would have
then,
to say the Fritz Leiber, Fofford, and Gray Mouser stories.
yeah,
They they have inspired my look at fantasy as far as how I like to present a kind of a fantasy adventure as opposed to I it's not like high fantasy, but then again it's not oh, yes, we saw a magic spell once 25 years ago. But and I would say Michael Moorcock, his Eternal Champion stories.
yeah. And I'm pretty sure you introduced me to both of those series.
I'm pretty sure. In fact, I remember. Okay, see, this is where we get into some weirdo stuff.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. So I remember you probably remember this too. The house I lived in when I was in high school, we would walk. We had to walk through like it was very bizarre because it was like a 3 block area of like, middle class houses in that. And then there were cemeteries and forest preserve and factories. So we were kind of in the like middle of nowhere. It was like a little island.
Yeah.
And we would cut through some of the parking lots to the factories to the train tracks. And we would walk along the train tracks to the next major street where there was a gas station. We used to go get like candy and gum, whatever. We used to go get snacks when you were hanging out, we were playing games or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember running just off the top of my head, like role playing adventures, and we would just be flipping a coin for the action resolution in that. And I remember introducing you to Fofford and the Gray Mouser as NPCs.
Wow. Okay, I don't remember that far,
I know you're not going to remember that.
but
Yes. Elliott's
uh,
memory is sometimes a little spotty.
sometimes
Sometimes. What'd you have for lunch?
um, something delicious.
There you go. It It was something delicious. All
The
right.
blood of
Next,
my enemies.
next question from Flaming Huron. They want to know if you were stuck on a desert island and you could bring one board game and one role playing game besides Call of Cthulhu, as for me, which would it be? What would you bring?
I'm gonna go with Traveler.
Really? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, we tried that again. I don't know, it was like a year ago, and I was starting to get
Yeah,
into
over the
it.
winter. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, it's
yeah, but then it
personally, I
fell
think
apart.
it's a pretty good system with Mongoose with their edition of it because there's like all different traveler floating all over the place. Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea. What about board game?
Board game. It'd have to be Arkham Horror.
Ah, okay. Let's see. So
Definitely.
for board game, I would probably be leaning towards Twilight Struggle. I think that would definitely be one.
Gotcha.
Um,
Have you
I'm gonna have
even?
to.
I've never
Go
even
ahead.
played Twilight Struggle. I think.
What are you talking? Twilight Struggle, dude. The
Oh,
Cold
Twilight
War.
Struggle. Okay, sorry. I was thinking about the Twilight something else.
Hey man, I don't remember playing any struggling with Twilight, man.
Yeah, we've only played it like 1,000 times.
Right. As I mentioned, Elliott's memory can be spotty at times.
I was thinking Twilight Imperium. I don't know
I have
why.
never played that either.
Yeah.
And that is supposed to be a game that takes a good long time to play, like
Yeah.
4 hours or something like that. Okay. Elliott, what's your favorite board game right now? And what is your favorite of all time?
My favorite right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
This is good content. This is really good content.
know. Maybe if I juggle while I'm thinking.
Right.
Well, I be well. Okay, my favorite of all time would probably be Arkham Horror,
Mhm.
because man, I mean, I have every
That's one of the things I was going to
iteration of that
ask.
game.
So, if you were lost on the desert island, would you need to have all the expansions as well?
Definitely, I'd probably make him into a raft
Yeah, you could.
to get off the island.
Okay.
But
And favorite board game right now?
uh, I'm not sure. Not sure. I played a lot of that Harry Potter Battle at Hogwarts game,
Yeah.
Battle for Hogwarts game,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Right.
actually I enjoyed it quite a bit. But I
Is
recently
it?
learned how to play Azul,
Yes.
and that
Right.
was entertaining. So
We've played some stuff too recently that I think
yeah,
you've liked.
have played games. I definitely like Terraforming Mars
The card game version of it.
card game. Yeah.
Yeah, the Ares Expedition. Yep.
Hmm.
Okay.
And then Everdell.
Yeah. Well, we haven't played Everdell in a long time.
Yeah.
So we had a period where there wasn't much gaming going on because of COVID.
That's true.
So luckily, recently we've been able to get together on every
We play
5-6 weeks, thereabouts. All right, so we're gonna wrap up a little bit. Anybody have some last questions they want to toss our way? Let me know. Just throw it out there in chat. Mr. Eddie T is curious. Favorite obscure board game or RPG? Elliott.
There was a baggy board game that I really enjoyed. I think it was from Steve Jackson, called Vampire.
No.
Wasn't it called
Close.
Vampire?
Close.
Undead?
Undead. Yep.
Undead.
With
That is
the
my obscure pick.
with the Dennis. I think his last name was Lube, something like that. He did like almost all the artwork for the little micro games that Steve Jackson did. So he did all the like the drivers from like Car Wars, you know, the overhead stuff,
Right.
and he did the little character counters for Undead, because you even had Sherlock Holmes and Watson in the game.
Yep.
And then TSR came out with a clamshell game called Vampire, and it was meh. Undead was pretty cool, except for the rules were not baked enough.
No, well, none of them really were back then.
Some were. Okay, so my favorite obscure board game or role playing game, I will have to say Bushido from
Bushido.
FGU, Fantasy Games Unlimited. I think even to this day, that game holds up pretty well. So it was Fantasy Japan. And I remember you and I and our friends in high school, like, man, I miss these days. Remember, well, I know you remember it, but there was a community center in Oak Park, Illinois, which is a suburb right next to Chicago. And every 6 months they had like a game weekend, like a little mini convention. And we would go. And I remember you and I played in a game of Bushido that somebody ran.
Yeah.
Just
that's right.
Just like
I enjoyed Bushido. Bushido
Yeah.
was fun.
Yeah, it's it's a little crunchy, but I mean, it covered a lot of the, you know, the mythos of Japan, and it was actually very detailed. And I'm pretty sure you can buy it in PDF over at like Drive Through RPG. I think it's still out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that that's probably my favorite obscure role playing game.
Nice.
Okay, Flaming Heron wants to know, what sort of character are you aiming to play in Warhammer Fantasy Role Play?
Okay, you're gonna think
One
I'm
that
copping out.
survives.
But I was talking to Jeff about this was it yesterday or the day before?
No, it was yesterday. Yep.
And I said, I would really like the chance to just play something different. Because he was telling me, to make sure to read through it and see what all the different character classes are. And I was like, yeah.
Careers.
And then he mentioned that they have a way to generate a completely random character. And I said, like character class and everything. And I said, that's what I want to do.
Right.
I want a completely random character so that, I have to role play to whatever comes up. And right. I think that'll be interesting, actually. I haven't done that before.
So you're going to play the dead body that the other characters find in the alleyway? You ready for it?
That's the plan.
All right, so Elliott, what do? I lie there. Okay, now what are you going to do? I'm still just laying there. All right, okay, what about now? Lying around. So
this is the best part.
The other cool
on.
By the rats.
By the rats. The rats in the walls.
Where's that rat catcher character to help me out here, man? What's going on? So I was talking to my nephew Cameron about this randomness, and he's like, hey, that sounds really cool. Because the thing is, if you take the roles that come to you, and it's not completely random, you still have control over like investing in skills and things like that.
Okay.
But you get more experience points that you can then turn around and spend to improve your character, because that's how experience points in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay work. because it's a D100. It's a percentile system.
Right.
So you're increasing your skills and things like that by spending experience points. So the funny thing is, if you allow yourself to just go with the rolls, you'll get a good chunk of experience points. So you'll actually be a little bit tougher as a starting character than you would have been if you just kind of picked your own thing. So, but yes,
Just
Cam,
like real life.
the only thing that we might encounter is I don't want to have everybody end up, oh, I'm a merchant. Oh, really? I'm a merchant. So what are you? Oh, I'm a salesman. And what do you do? Oh, I'm the driver for the merchant caravan. We're going to have to try to, make sure that there's a bit of a mix.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I don't think I'm going to allow anybody to play a magic user to start off with, which isn't that big a deal. Well, it's not. No, it's not that big a deal. There's magic, but it's not. For one, nobody really trusts magic users. And
I know I don't.
Right. And actually one of the character careers is witch hunter. So, yes. So in this setting, you have to be licensed by the Empire to be able to practice magic. So if you are practicing magic and you are not officially licensed, big trouble. Big trouble in Little China. All right, Sarah D has joined us as well. So all of our chat moderators are here tonight. Very cool. All right, any last questions for Elliott before we move on to our review of OAR number 4, The Lost City? I'll give folks a couple of moments out there. Anyway, so are you looking forward to Saturday?
I am.
All right.
It should be fun.
4 p.m. Don't be late.
4 p.m.?
4 p.m.
Okay.
Please,
that's the first you're telling me that.
Oh, I said 3 or 4. But yes, that is the time. 4 o'clock. So, because remember, we're going to create characters, and I do want to run some. Because yes. I hate getting together, creating characters, and then it's like, okay, well, right, so next time.
See you in a month.
Well, yeah, next time we're going to play, and then it's like a month goes by, and it's like, oh, I've got these new board games I really want to check out. So Mr. Eddie T asks, this is our final question for Elliott Miller. When is your first video going to be up?
I'll soon.
2023.
A new video, because we'll slowly get the old ones over there, but the new ones, I've got 2 actually written that I have to record, but they're now 4 years stale.
I have some stuff. I'm going to be bringing.
I figure you're going to bring stuff tomorrow or Saturday, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually have some games. I have Goonies.
Right. Hey, any interest in Disney's Sorcerer Arena?
I don't know what that is.
It's kind of like a combat game, weirdly enough.
Disney combat game?
Yeah.
I'll kill you all.
Right. Damn you, Mickey. So yes, there's heroes and villains, and each has their own little deck. It's almost like kind of like a shuffle building game.
Interesting.
So yeah, I've got the core game, and I've got the first expansion to it.
Yeah, I definitely want to try it.
Yeah, well,
major Disney fan.
That's why I was going to hand it on over to you. So Testy Trekkie is slaying on into chat as I'm about to say goodbye to my best friend, Elliott Miller. Yes, you have seen, he really does exist. For those of you who weren't around for episode 500, when he stopped in and hung out and chatted with us for a while. So sweet. All right, my friend. Thank you for hanging out on the 800th live stream here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch.
See you, everybody.
All right. See you later, my friend.
Later, man.
All right. Let me get these headphones off. Ooh. It just feels weird. It's odd to talk with the headphones on. I am going to disconnect. Oh, there you go. I was just about to disconnect Skype because the interview was through Skype and let Elliott go, but he already did. Just as I was going to click on to hang up, bink. So Tessie Trekkie, as I mentioned, is with us. Helga Ratbone and Quantum Phase Dragon are hanging out with us as well. So yeah, stay tuned. Elliott will have some videos in the near future. I'm not going to really push him to publish content and things like that. So, I mean, it's basically however he wants to do it. There you go. Voice of E in chat saying goodbye to everybody. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just going to, whenever he gets stuff done, he gets stuff done. So because figure the Gaming Gang just operates as is, as usual anyway. All righty. So today I'm going to share my review of Dungeons & Dragons Original Adventures Reincarnated Volume 4 in just a couple of moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission. All right, come on, change.
Captain of the good ship Pleasure, come join the crew in search of a treasure. The treasure has been sighted from the old crow's nest. Be prepared to find what you like best. There's candy for you of quality fine, impact and assortment that is so divine. The soda pop is cold, just name your brand. The ice cream is delicious and it's right at hand. If it's popcorn you want, well take my cue. We have the very finest in the world for you. Just steer a course straight up the aisle. We'll have an intermission for a little while.
With this camera, I shoot pictures of people who don't drink Wilkins coffee. I'm ready. Shoot. Anybody else?
It's refreshment time, folks.
Taste that beats the others cold. Pepsi pours it on. Taste that beats the others cold. Pepsi pours it
on. Little Wilkins and Wonkins action. Little Wilkins coffee, yes. More violence, more Muppet violence to get you through the evening. All right. So tonight I am going to share my review of Original Adventures Reincarnated Volume 4, Dungeons & Dragons, The Lost City. This is from Goodman Games. The original adventure was written by the late, great Tom Moldvay. The 5e conversion authors happen to be Chris Doyle and Tim Wadzinski, with art provided by Jim Holloway, Brad McDevitt, Chad Sergsketter, Chris Arneson, Cliff Karowski, Fred Daly, Jesse Morn, Peter Mullen, Stefan Pogue, Tom Galambos, and William McAusland. The 320-page hardcover is available now. It came out in 2020. It does carry an MSRP of $49.99. Let's swing on over to the other camera because here I've got The Lost City. So should point out this is not a review copy. This was not sent to me by Goodman Games. If you have been checking out any of the coverage that I've had for the original Adventures Reincarnated series, a fan of the show had sent along all 6 volumes for me to check out and share with you. And they asked that they, remain anonymous. And I'm like, okay, very cool. Very cool. So don't have to worry about me talking about not receiving any other sort of compensation from Goodman Games, because Goodman Games did not send me this. Also, this is an adventure. And yes, I know this is a very old adventure. The 5e conversion isn't, but the original expert Dungeons and Dragons adventure, no, actually it was basic. It was not expert. I'm thinking of Isle of Dread, which actually came in the expert box set that Tom Mulvey also wrote. This is actually basic. This was a basic adventure. Anyway, it is an adventure. If you are hoping that your Dungeon Master is going to run the Lost City, I definitely recommend that you tune out. Go check out another video. There's over 1,500 of them on the channel. So why ruin all the surprises by sitting here checking out this review? I'm also going to stay picture in picture up in the corner as I normally do. So as we take a peek through, I will be cutting off a little bit of the upper left portion of the book. Kevin R. Smith points out, you'd think Wilkins would learn to run when Wilkins says shoot in any context. Yes. There is one that I'm going to share next week that it's like, oh my gosh, that's kind of gruesome. So we'll be jumping on into that. So the madman said they checked. They still have their original The Lost City adventure packed away in a storage bin. Nice. So one thing to point out, and I did discuss this a little more in depth. I'm not going to harp on it tonight, but keep in mind, this is only available as a hardcover. It is not available as a PDF. And that is because of the agreement, the licensing agreement that Goodman Games has made with Wizards of the Coast. Although, strangely enough, you can purchase The Lost City, the original module, in PDF from Drive-Thru RPG. So, I don't know. Their big deal is piracy, and we've talked about it before. Wizards of the Coast thinks they're doing something against piracy for their 5e products. Tain't happening, Dooley. Hate to break it to you. All right, let's jump on in. I did not have any sort of relationship with the Lost City prior to about 3 years ago when I started taking a peek at some of the old adventures and kind of looking into the D&D adventures that were really well thought of and on, like the top 20, top 30 lists that are out there for various adventures, because I was really considering kind of doing some old school Renaissance role playing with my nephew and Elliott and things like that. And this was one of the adventures that I took a peek at. And I got to point out that as far as the old basic and expert adventures go, I think The Lost City is one of the top. It is one of the best. We're going to talk a little bit about what goes on in the adventure. And there you go. Coco B says, never played it back in the 80s because it was basic. Yes, I have talked about that before, that when we were playing D&D, we played advanced D&D because, we were freshmen in high school or 8th grade. So come on. Basic was for babies. It's like, yeah, okay. Tessie Trekkie says, if there's anything iTunes and later streaming services have taught media companies, it's that the solution to piracy is to make your product easy to access digitally. That is actually true. The more you squeeze your fist, the more galaxies will slip through your fingers. Anyway, so we're going to get an opening, like all of the original Adventures Reincarnated series, where we get some interviews looking back on the module itself. Then we're going to get a reproduction of the original edition. So one of the things that I really do like about Volume 4 is we get one copy of the original adventure. It is, as far as they know, it is the first print run for the Lost City. So we're going to get that. We're also going to get a copy of the other cover, the like red band cover. But unlike other editions of the original Adventures Reincarnated series, we're not getting multiple reprints, which to me I think is a complete waste of paper. So, I mean, and I get it. I say it all the time. I understand that these aren't only looked at as gaming products. They are also looked at as like coffee table books, collector's items. So I get it, but I just think that including like 3 copies of the same module, one after another, where there was very minor changes overall, is kind of silly. Well, that's not the case here. So the page count is shorter than Volume 3. Volume 3 clocked in around 400 pages, if I remember correctly. This is 320 pages. Same MSRP, but in my opinion, I feel that you're actually getting more gaming content for your buck than you did with Volume 3. So there is that. So anybody who remembers the old D&D modules, this font, this style, brings back all the memories. There's some Jim Holloway art. You can always tell Jim Holloway art. So we're going to go through, I believe we had a grand total of, I think this adventure is 32 pages. Then we get, strangely enough, we have kind of different paper stock. So here we get a bit of a sheen on here. This is more of a matte finish. I can understand if we were reproducing some color, but we're not until here. So I'm not sure why these black and white pages use the different papers. Kind of odd. So here we've got our maps, and then here is the red band cover for the Lost City. And then we jump on into the 5th edition conversion. So a few things I do want to point out is that this does not subscribe to 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons sensibilities, I guess I will say. This is an OSR adventure. This is old school to the max, and that carries through with this conversion. And it's not just a conversion of the adventure, but there is tons of new content, many things that were just hinted at in the original module, or that were essentially kind of put in there for your dungeon master, the beginning dungeon master, the fledgling dungeon master, to create like the goblin caves or the lower levels of the pyramids in the Lost City. Well, all of that is now here in this adventure, and you can turn Lost City from being a multi-session adventure into a full-fledged campaign. So it is that packed. So we start off on page 57, and then we are going to go through about page 200 and I think about 260 or so, and it's all going to be the adventure. So one of the things that I think is a little odd is that the way this is edited and the other volumes leading up to this kind of fall into this as well. I really pointed this out with volume 3, especially. They're just not laid out intuitively. Now, it opens up with pretty much your background, talking about kind of the overall kind of storyline of the module and some different encounters, random encounters and things like that. And honestly, I think that's great. And then it jumps into the Lost City. And then later on in the book, and you'll see it in just a few moments, we start getting encounters and adventure material for the area outside of the Lost City or outside of the pyramid, which is the main focus of the Lost City. The main focus of the Lost City is not actually the Lost City that's located in the desert. The main focus is the city below the surface, or more like the caverns below the surface that this race now occupies. So Kabuki Kid has joined us in chat. Good to see you, Double K. Thanks for swinging on in. Talking about this is a true classic. This really is. And as I had mentioned previously, The Lost City, in my opinion, is probably my favorite of the old basic and expert adventures that I've had an opportunity to look at. So we jump into the upper pyramid and we get our cool Goodman Games styled maps as well, which I really, really do like. They always have a little extra going for them. There's just little extra images. We have different designs around the edges and things like that. Always really like it. To me, that pops way more than just the Xerox proof blue. So Kabuki Kid says they might agree that the Lost City might be their favorite of the basic and expert as well. So this is all fairly much along the lines of the original module. So we've got the 3 different factions that are all vying not only for control of this kind of ancient decadent race that's dying out, but also to overthrow the creature that they're essentially thralls of, the Zargon. Zargon, take me away. Oh, wait, that's something else. Zeratheri is with us in Chad. Welcome aboard. Thanks for swinging on in tonight for episode 800 of the Gaming Gang Dispatch. So, like I said, for the most part, this section here it's not necessarily verbatim exactly what's going on in the original module, but it is very similar in many respects. But in my opinion, the big selling point for this, even if you don't run 5th edition D&D, is all the extra content that is included in here. So then we also have the lower pyramid. So there is a lot of faction play that is available to clever dungeon masters in the Lost City. Got to point out, faction play can be relatively difficult for newer game masters to grasp. Now, you can approach the Lost City as each of these 3 competing factions can be used just as, monsters. But you're not going to get the most you can get out of this adventure. And in fact, a campaign essentially now with this conversion. You're not going to get the bang for your buck if you don't attempt to utilize faction play. And the various different player characters are going to be able to join each of the 3 factions, depending on what sort of character they are. And I find that kind of interesting as well, because if you play it to the hilt, you might actually start sort of either drawing these three factions together, which is going to be difficult. But the more you do to help the factions out, the more renown you'll earn, and the further you'll go in the hierarchy of each of the factions. But you can also probably drive a wedge between some of the players as well, based on these factions that they join. And I'm not saying that you want to have your player characters at each other's throats, but little bit of character friction, not player friction, character friction can go a long way for some really entertaining role playing. So we're going to go through the sections here until finally, here we go. There's Zargon, a rather Lovecraftian sort of creature with the tentacles and everything. I understand that Tom Moldvay did write The Lost City almost in a little bit of an homage to the Robert E. Howard Conan story Red Nails, which is also inspired a little bit by Lovecraft. So that's why I think the Zargon's kind of a little Lovecraftian in nature, although far easier to destroy than a great old one, that's for sure. So then we start getting into the section that I said, I wish this stuff had been like before the actual module conversion, because this is a lot of additional adventuring that can be taking place prior to the player characters discovering the pyramid. If I were running this adventure and the recommended background to begin the story is that the player characters are hired to escort a caravan across the desert, and a sandstorm blows up and they're separated from the rest of the caravan. So it's a good way to introduce the characters to each other. They don't necessarily have to have been all created and have a group dynamic already figured out or anything like that. So, of course, they have no food. They have no water. They have minimal equipment. They have basically what they had on their backs, their gear, their weapons, things like that. And they're in the midst of a desert. So there is a lot of potential before even arriving at that pyramid. A lot of potential to really drive home that the stakes are very high, that they find some place that they can get food and water because they have none. So Tessie Trekkie says, the best feeling, watching the gaming gang when the courier knocks on the door and drops off some new gaming goodness. Sweet. Very cool. I have to laugh because sometimes I'll see the post woman show up and coming down the street, and I'll be like, taking a peek to see her. You know, they're going to walk up to the door with a package or something. And when they don't, I'm like, boo. So each of those three major factions are fleshed out quite a bit. There are more adventures. There's one specifically aimed towards each of the factions as well. So I liked that. There are a lot of additional encounters. There's even more below the pyramid. There are other levels that were, once again, hinted at in the module itself that are now fully fleshed out. One of the examples I had mentioned before were the Goblin Caves. Well, now we've got the Goblin Caves. So just loads and loads of adventuring. And granted, yes, okay, the font's a little bigger than the original module, but you're going from, let's see, let's get the official count for the pages here. So we have 39 pages. I'm sorry. I take that back. 41 pages or 40 pages or so make up the original adventure. And look at all this additional content building on that. You can take your 5e characters from about first level to 7th or so with all of these adventures here. And this is actually designed, I think the original adventure was supposed to be like for 6 to 10 characters, which these days, it's kind of hard to get 6 players together, right? To form a group. Now this has actually been statted out and converted over for 4 to 6 adventurers. So there's also a lot of good advice on creating challenging encounters that are not going to overwhelm your players. Because remember, as I mentioned, this is not a 5e mentality throughout this conversion. It is old school. So your player characters are going to run across creatures and monsters and opponents that the first time they encounter them, they may not be able to tackle them. And we don't see that a whole lot in 5e. Everything is, and Pathfinder 2nd edition as well. Everything's kind of like, oh, well, we want to make sure we stat this out for it to be challenging, but not where, you know, you're going to get a total party kill. And a total party kill can happen in a multitude of different ways in this adventure. So we're also going to get into some new spells. So we have a handful of new spells. We got a lot of new monsters. And one of the things that I definitely appreciate with this volume, as opposed to the earlier volumes, is we're getting a lot more images for the monsters. Now, we don't get images for each and every one, but we get quite a few more images than we were getting in earlier OAR editions. Because, I mean, we had some where there was like just page after page like this, where it's just like, oh, okay, here's the monsters. Now, do you need an image of a killer bee? Not really. Do you need an image of an immature Zorn? Probably. So Testy Trekkie says it's the new Mouseletta box sets. Sweet. That is another game that I'd like to check out. I have heard so many good things about it. The only thing that kind of takes the wind out of my sail is the anthropomorphic animals. Because I have heard that the system itself, which I think draws a little bit from Into the Odd, as far as I believe your encumbrance and your equipment, things like that. But, and the thing is, you know, I thought Mouse Guard was a cool comic. Just saying. It's like, well. Kevin says they got his Call of Cthulhu classic Kickstarter box set yesterday. Nice. Very nice. All right, so we've got the various different new monsters. We have some pre-generated characters if you'd like. And then we get our important NPCs, and they all have images for the most part. So, once again, I was very happy to see that. Of course, it's all black and white line art. Some of the artwork's a little more miss than hit, but that's okay. At least we're getting plenty of artwork. Now we've got the handouts, and this is where we start getting into the issues I have with this entire series of books is there are no digital downloads for any of the original Adventures Reincarnated volumes. So we've got these handouts So I guess you could take pictures of them with your phone, print them out that way. You're obviously not going to cut apart this really nice hardcover to pull these out. So I wish, even if Goodman Games were just allowed to provide you with the handouts as a PDF, if you purchased the book from them, say, and not from like Amazon or something like that. If you purchased it through Goodman Games, because they give you PDFs with your purchases for other stuff like Mutant Crawl Classics, Dungeon Crawl Classics, some of the third-party stuff that they sell. So I would think it would make the Dungeon Masters' lives so much easier if these handouts were available just as a PDF. But I guess Wizards of the Coast is like, no way, nothing. Don't want any pirates. Don't want any pirates pirating those maps. Jumping back to those Xerox-proof ink colors again. So that is the Lost City. It's volume 4 of the Original Adventures Reincarnated series from Goodman Games. And it carries an MSRP of $49.99. Let's swing on over to the other camera. I'm going to share some final thoughts and give this a review score. So far to date, The Lost City is my favorite volume of the Original Adventures Reincarnated series of releases. We still have to go through Castle Amber and Temple of Elemental Evil. So those reviews are coming shortly. But to this date, really like The Lost City. I think it's a great adventure to start off with. And then the conversion that's been done is really, really well done. There is loads and loads of adventuring content that gamers are they could get, depending on how often they play and how many hours each session is. I mean, you're talking years of content in here. But it's also not edited intuitively to make it easy to use at the game table. And that's unfortunate. I don't know what it is where the writers have to, it's almost like they have to stick to how the original module was set up and presented, present that, and then they're able to add the additional content. The additional content should be within the body of the adventure. So as I mentioned, the stuff leading up to the discovery of the pyramid, where they find the lost city, essentially, which is much of it covered over by sand dunes. There's a lot of stuff that can go on in that point of the adventure early on, but it's after the main part of the module, at least in the presentation for this volume. And it just, once again, it just doesn't seem to make much sense to me. It seems that it's just going to be tougher to run this at the table than it should be. That said, very, very good. Very, very cool. Zero Theory, I should say, is asking a legal thing where you can edit the original text. Well, they've edited all the original text anyway in the conversion. So that's not an issue. I mean, there's things so far in this series, there are things that they've left out from original adventures and other things that they've actually added in the kind of conversion of the module section. So I don't think that is the case. But I really like this. I wish I could give it a higher score. I almost gave this a 9. Almost. But it's these damn stumbling blocks that just seem to be present in every single volume to this point. Plus the fact that the handouts, you got to figure out what you're going to do with those. So there are no digital reproductions of them, which would be so much easier. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I really do recommend The Lost City. I think it's an excellent adventure, and I think the additional content here is well worth the price of admission. Just wish it was a little more intuitive and a little easier for dungeon masters to use. So on a scale of 0 to 10, I give The Lost City an 8.5 out of 10. All right, so there you have it. So as I'm about to wrap up, do want to point out, I did not mention this before when, of course, I was busy talking with Elliott and we didn't do a news section tonight. Don't forget the gaminggang.com and, obviously enough, the Dispatch are affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit Drive-Thru RPG or maybe DM's Guild, maybe you want to pick up the original module for The Lost City digitally in PDF, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Use one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. All those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you feel thegaminggang.com is a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, by all means, you can always buy me a cup of coffee or some soda by swinging on over to paypal.me/thegaminggang and making a small donation. And there are a lot of people out there who use the banner ads. There are some people who make small donations. Thank you. Big tip of the cap. It is much appreciated. Also do want to mention that I have a list of games now up on thegaminggang.com, which are for sale. If you've been following along with the live shows, you know that the overhead camera that we were just looking at when we were taking a peek at the Lost City is on its last legs. It's been holding up okay, but before the show, I have to screw around with it quite a bit. Not every show, but more often than not. And then keep my fingers crossed. It's like, okay, hold together until we get to that point, baby. Just hold together. Hear me, baby, hold together. Sony. Anyway, so I have a list of mostly used games. A lot of them are, well, I should say all of them are in mint condition that are for sale to help defray the cost of the new camera that is going to eventually have to be purchased. So be sure to check that out. I will be adding new items to the list probably every Saturday or Sunday. I'll toss a few more on and, of course, remove the ones that have been sold. It is first come, first served. It is not an auction. So if there's something on the list that you want to purchase, just let me know in the comment section and then shoot me an email. And that way I can figure out shipping and what the total cost would be through PayPal. So keep that in mind. A lot of stuff, a lot of goodies. And I've got quite a bit that I'm also going to add as we go along as well. All right. So that is it for tonight's show. If you were hanging out, watching live, thank you very kindly. Of course, if you were hanging out in chat, more bonus experience points for you. Hey, maybe it'll get you to level up in the Lost City. You never know. But of course, I know a lot of people out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for taking time out of your busy lives to watch any of the videos here on the channel. Of course, don't forget, if you like this video, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. Also inform you when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming look at Potions Unlocked from Splinterverse Media. Yes. So stay tuned for that video. The fantasy role-playing game celebration will rock on next week as well. There are different things that are supposed to be in transit. I don't know if they are. So if none of those show up, next Monday, I will review Uber's-like Adventures Volume 2 for Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay from Cubicle 7 Entertainment. If something else shows up, we will take a peek at those, and then sometime probably later in the week, I'll do my review. All right, everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. And as always, here's hoping each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.
Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel by clicking right here. Check out the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, or find out what YouTube recommends you check out from the channel. And of course, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thanks for watching.